Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the May Advisory Council meeting. I wanted to begin by thanking each of you for being here and for all the expertise, insights, and energy the council has provided over the past year. It has exactly been 1 year that we have been holding meetings with our AI Advisory Council. So since this is a public meeting for some of the folks who have tuned into this meeting, I just want to give a high level where like this council was formed with the intent to guide the responsible and impactful use of AI across our state. So today I'm actually really excited to reflect on our first year together. So, we have made a lot of progress and we're looking forward to a bunch of opportunities that lie before us. So here's a quick review of the agenda. So we'll start by reviewing our year one of our AI Advisory Council, highlighting our key goals, accomplishments, and where we currently stand. From there, we'll shift into our short and longer term roadmaps outlining what's on the horizon, how we envision scaling our efforts. We'll also provide an update on the Innovation Lab events, which are beginning to take shape, and meaningful collaborative spaces for pilot projects and experimentations are forming, and we're really excited about that. A key part of our success obviously will continue to be the part that like your involvement is really key. So we'll review the scheduled workshops led by some of our council members, and then move into the planning, vendor partner demos, workshops, all of the strategic, thoughtful approach that we are bringing towards the overall external expertise. And then we'll open up the floor for ideas and QA. So as far as our Horizon 1, let me just quickly go over some of the folks about. For the Innovation Lab, we are calling it Horizons. That is really kind of based on the Three Horizons framework. If any of you are acquainted with that, it's a strategic planning model used to guide innovation and transformation over time. So it helps essentially any organization to balance the present needs versus future opportunities, and helps categorizing initiatives into three distinct timeframes. So those are the three different horizons. The first horizon is like today's key operational challenges. So we are focusing on improving scaling our existing systems, processes, capabilities, really kind of laying the strong foundation work while addressing immediate needs. The second horizon is emerging innovations. So that's a little further out. We're focusing on evolving capabilities, piloting certain new tools, hopefully scaling them, different approaches and partnerships to show potential and improving outcomes. And the third horizon is the transformative vision, which is the long-term transformative change that we want to see across our ecosystem. So this includes some of the moonshot ideas, some bold policies, and frontier technologies. So each of these horizons really kind of operate simultaneously, but with these different levels of skill sets and maturity. We also analyze the risk and the kind of needed investment in each of these horizons. So they ensure we're not only solving today's problems, but also preparing for something that's beyond what we can see today. All right, so Horizon 1, foundation, right? So this is kind of like where we set up a secure, transparent, policy-aligned framework for our AI program that scales across all the state agencies. So the first horizon is also about building the groundwork, right? So this is kind of like sustainable success, really kind of divided into three focus areas: governance, training, and our innovation lab, approving space. So with these, we are setting clear policies, ethical guidelines, oversight mechanisms, and the use of AI to align state values, but also making sure we protect public trust. With training, we all know that AI is not just a flash in the pan. We need to develop foundational knowledge across agencies and equip everybody, right, from leadership to staff to technical teams, with all the skills and awareness that's needed to evaluate and kind of understand the use of responsible AI. And then the proving space is really kind of a space that was much needed to creating a safe environment for experimentation, for agencies and partners to test AI tools and use cases in really a controlled setting, something that we can actually provide as a um, as a ground for agencies to experiment. So the Horizon One sets the stage for everything, that will follow going forward. And without this foundation, we would be risking scaling any of these technologies. So the first year has been quite monumental, actually, because as we reflect on the first year, I'm really proud to share all of these things that we have collectively achieved. It's truly meaningful progress, establishing foundation of how we approach AI, right? So right from policy standards and guidelines, all of us really kind of laid the groundwork by drafting, socializing this policy framework, guides AI, for like how it should be evaluated, deployed, some of the tools that are okay to use, assessing their ethical use, their transparency levels, their accountability checkpoints, and just overall data stewardships. Like we're making sure that we cover all of this ground in our policy standards and guidelines. We also, obviously formed and, this very group right up here established to provide this strategic oversight. So cannot be more thankful to you all for, just fostering this collaboration across all of the sectors that you all bringing with your expertise. Your participation leadership really has been very essential in shaping this thoughtful, balanced approach to AI governance. Also last year, for the first time, we also conducted a statewide AI inventory. So now we at least know we have a good horizon scan of understanding where AI already is in use or under consideration. This baseline really enables us to track progress for identifying any gaps or ensuring responsible oversight of AI tools in government. So that's a really good start, and we plan to do this every year. There have been a couple of bills introduced for GTA to be able to do that, but thankfully, we're already doing it. So regardless of like where our legislation goes next year, I think we will be pretty much committed to doing this every year. Then, we have our upskilling program that we launched as a statewide initiative. At this point, we have focused on GTA, but for a lot of the programs like Innovate US courses, it's out there already. So if any of the organizations really want to start out by understanding what needs to be kind of consumed as part of our training, you can just go to our website, ai.georgia.gov, and it will give you a better understanding of like the overall programs that we have put in place. The Innovation Lab really, the creation of the lab, marked a major milestone because this is a physical proving space that allows agencies to safely experiment, any of their ideas in form of AI pilots. We can also get to evaluate any of our industry partner tools. We collaborate on a lot of cross-functional projects before pursuing any full-scale deployment in production environments. So all of this information, really is reflected in the established ai.georgia.gov website, which we are hoping to hold as a central hub for our state's AI strategy, policy resources, and just overall transparency. So this particular platform should reinforce our commitment to any of our open work that we are doing, enabling be it residents or partners to stay informed and engaged with our AI efforts. So yeah, we already have published two policies. So basically, one is a policy, one is a standard, but these are two established governance documents out there. We have been working on generative AI standard, a procurement for AI tools, guidelines, and generative AI guidelines. So these three are in review with one of our divisions that make sure that we put this in a format of the rest of the standard policies and guidelines. And then once our state CIO greenlights these, that they would be uploaded on the same page and the same website, where other standards, policies, and guidelines are hosted. I've included the URL in here, down here. And of course, this presentation is going to be uploaded and shared for anyone who wishes to revisit this. So you will have the URL. But if you go to ai.georgia.gov, this is primarily where you will find any of this information. So we are expecting to launch the 3 in draft standards and guidelines pretty soon in the coming weeks. All right, so let's talk about the upskilling program, the AI Pilots License program. This particular program is really a key enabler for our AI strategy, because as any of you all would probably attest to this, that the strategy at this point really leans on building talent and confidence across any of our workforce, right? Because just technology itself has never been proven to make any major changes. It's always the people. Technology is just an enabler, right? So that's really the vision behind the AI training program, which we have named Pilot's License, right? So basically, just like a pilot that must be trained and licensed and trusted to safely navigate complex systems and really kind of have people responsible, right? Like that person's responsible for people. So just the way they fly, we were hoping that after going through this pilot's license program, this certification, it's a readiness signal for any of our workforce individuals. So that means that this person understands the fundamentals of AI and machine learning, can assess potential risks, opportunities in the public sector use cases, is equipped to engage with industry partners, understands technical terms confidentially. Most importantly, I would say that, this is something that would help anyone to lead or contribute to any emerging technology-driven, AI-driven projects, and also within the bounds and the confines of policy, ethics, essentially for the public good. So this program not only builds skills, but also truly builds judgment and the kind of informed leadership that we need at this point from any of us who work for the state in the changing world. So there were a few milestones that already were implemented. The first one was the mandatory training. So this training was grouped with our security training that everyone is required to take. So that starts creating some basic level of awareness. The other training is a self-paced training, which is partnered with Innovate US. And so it's really kind of, it delivers the blended learning experience, because Innovate US is a great partner who has created and curated a lot of training courses primarily for public sector employees. The third is what I talked about earlier about, which is the pilot's license training, but it is at this point, we only have rolled out the foundational training. And this is in partnership with Coursera. So, where we are looking to make sure that we develop training based on roles and certain pathways. For example, we would have training and awareness programs for policy, legal teams, technical staff, business leaders. So we make sure that all are trained to evaluate, say, for example, AI proposals, define problem statements, or drive pilot projects. All right, so moving forward, I want to talk about the work that we have done in our innovation lab. So this has been pretty significant work. First of all, like the physical build out for the innovation lab was a long drawn process. I really want to commend the tireless work of GTA's facilities, GTA's IT teams, to make sure that this space was not only equipped with a really good state-of-the-art technology equipment, but also is a very embracing, welcoming space for state agencies. It's a concept space for agency partners to just come over and really think out of the box. So we're really excited to open this physical space pretty soon. We are scheduling a formal inauguration of that at this point, but that has not stopped us from actually starting these activities because we are also looking at the innovation lab at a virtual form as well. So we already have started doing that. Then last year, we went through a series of RFQC procurement, a request for qualified contractors. So we ended up down selecting 19 industry partners across 7 focus areas. And you can again find, based on that URL, you can find who these qualified partners are. And the third part for the Innovation Lab is we are able to actually secure and provide virtual environments for any of these proof of concepts or pilot programs at this point. So depending on any agency who would have a use case, we are able to use any of these sandbox environments to actually start putting together any solutioning based on what the requirements are. This is just to give you an idea of the focus areas that we identified for our industry partners. So we have selected industry partners for automation services, for communication services, knowledge management services, data analytics and business intelligence, video, image, and audio analysis services, organizational readiness assessments, and immersion technology. So really, if you'll see, like we are trying to kind of capture as wide a net as possible to see that any of our use cases really should fit in any of these focus areas. And then we have multiple partners selected within the focus area. And then, of course, this is something we will be revisiting at an ongoing basis. So we hope to add more relevant, updated partners into this mix every year. So it's not so much going to be of a rebid, but it is more of just kind of an open enrollment to kind of see like what else is out there from a skill set perspective that we are seeing as a gap, and then how can we bridge that. All right, so like I said, there already have been certain activities happening. The Innovation Lab, as part of the effort, we partnered with Microsoft early this year, and were able to put together, thanks to Microsoft, a hackathon where over the period of 3 days, we had a number of state agencies participate. And these were not just technical teams. There also were business teams. There were also legal teams. And they created groups of teams. And based on the groups, there were certain use cases that were identified. And at the end of the hackathon, we had a fantastic presentation of all the ideas and the use cases that these teams came up with. And it was not just conceptual presentation. They also used any of the Microsoft tools that the licenses were provided to actually have like a working prototype of what their ideas were. So it was a fantastic experience, and we are hoping to scale that and repeat that. And at that scale maybe, but also at a much smaller scale, we are hoping to conduct workshops in the lab, and some of our council members actually have volunteered, and thank you so much to Brent again for conducting our very first prompt engineering workshop. And we plan to do that for not just a select set of teams, but also like, what does prompt engineering mean for leadership? What does prompt engineering mean for procurement? What does it mean for legal? So we are hoping to also customize and tailor these workshops to make sure that people, A, are comfortable using these tools, B, understand the guardrails that they should be functioning, and third is like at some point, this pretty much becomes our day-to-day. So how do we embed that into our norm? So we are also excited to have some of the future events. One of the most immediate event is one of our council members, again, Dr. Rose Proctor. She is going to be conducting an ethics training based on the ethics guide that was developed. It is, again, available on the AI website, and the larger report is available on the website for the Center for Ethical Leadership at the Truist Center at the University of North Georgia. But this training, again, coming up in a couple of weeks, is going to be geared towards understanding, creating an awareness of what are some of these ethical norms that we need to be aware of as part of decision making. And we again hope to scale this training at different levels. And this is a very much integrated part of our overall pilot's license training. We are also engaged in talks with some of the other industry partners, just the way we conducted this hackathon with Microsoft. We are also looking at possibly creating something similar with the likes of other environments such as AWS that also lets agencies experiment and work on those environments that typically they are working on at this point. Sounds good. So let's talk about like the second horizon, which is now that the foundation is established, like what do we do going forward, right? So that the key is going to be partnerships. The key is going to be establishing these partnerships and in part of proof of concept, proof of value, and pilots, right? So I already talked about us having 19 industry partners, but also, having these opportunities that we can create to engage with our agencies and the industry partners to come up with use cases. And this is really kind of like where we accelerate this innovation through controlled pilot projects in this public-private collaboration partnership format. And really the idea here is to scale that to the point where once the pilots are successful, we can actually look at implementation. Some of the key initiatives that we are pursuing is obviously our partnerships with our higher ed education, such as Georgia Tech, University of North Georgia, GSU, TCSG, and part of workforce development and apprenticeship and internship programs. We are also planning on creating an AI champions network, which is typically going to be something that our state agencies are going to participate in. And we are going to be identifying AI champions across state agencies. So a lot of times when conversations are held at the agency level, these are our champions who would be representing the AI program, basically. So these would be our AI stewards to help agencies the right direction to drive adoption and make sure they also understand the governance. So a big part of that is, again, like a sandbox environment that we can give them to make sure that we document any level of pilots that focus on automation, fraud detection, chatbots. So we have a bunch of use cases identified already. But the key would be to make sure that it's a partnership exchange. So, we are working with several nonprofits as well. Most recently, we partnered with Code for America, and we are working with them on building an AI-driven tool that would help make all our web properties, such as a bunch of PDFs across all the websites, which are in thousands, to actually be accessible, because there is an upcoming deadline by the Department of Justice next year in April, where every state agency is required to be compliant to WCAG 2.1 AA standard. And if we don't do that now, then after April, there are going to be consequences. Obviously, it could be fines or legal actions. So for whatever it is, we want to make sure we're ready for that. So really kind of excited to have partners in nonprofits who actually work on grants given to them to be able to do this awesome work. While we do all of this, we want to make sure we work closely with our security team to make sure we have an ongoing risk monitoring happening for any of the models that we are using have reached production, or we are trying to work at this point within the lab. So, we talked about partnerships. We actually have completed our ethics guide. So you will be able to find the playbook and training on the ai.georgia.gov website. We also have kicked off our internship program. We have onboarded we have selected soon to be onboarded our very first intern for the AI program. And as we have a schedule up there, I would love to reach out to our partners and our council members here across who represent higher ed organizations. Would love to have interns from all of the esteemed organizations to work on this program. The other part that we are actively working on right now are tools. So, and piloting of those tools. So for example, we are working with Microsoft to make sure we have Copilot at this point as a pilot project. So, Microsoft has offered us with a certain number of licenses for a couple of months, and we are implementing the same hackathon model that we did, where we have identified about 10 different personas as far as roles and responsibilities are concerned. And then we will be recruiting testing members across all of the agencies that are using the GTA Microsoft tenant. And then part of those personas, we will have use cases identified. And what I'm really excited about is, for example, in one persona group, say legal, you would have legal representation from 4 different agencies. So with that group and that diverse experience, it would be really interesting to see what use cases come up with. So we are hoping to hold that model as an ongoing model for testing out these pilots. So we are starting out with Copilot. We're also in the talks to have a pilot test for OpenAI ChatGPT as well. So as I move to Horizon 3, sustained innovation and leadership, this is really kind of like the goal to position Georgia as a national leader in ethical, effective use of AI in public service. But this really kind of like aims at building that level of maturity that we want to see in our AI program. The way we are able to actually hope to reach there, and this is really going to be something that I would need feedback from our council, is like, how do you really attain that sustained innovation leadership position? So one of the things that we are hoping to do is just offer AI platform services. So offer shared scalable tools across all the Georgia agencies. Primarily GTA will be doing it for common needs, but also, again, have some level of transparency portal. We have launched the AI website, but I would love to also maintain a public transparency dashboard to explain how AI is used within Georgia. It should address all the FAQs or any questions that either our constituents may have or our industry partners may have. It is really going to be an oversight info, and we will always keep it open for public feedback and opinions. Then we are looking to have policy leadership, obviously, to influence state, interstate, local AI discussions. One thing as a state, we want to make sure that our local governments are not left without any direction. So any of the work that we do that is focused on state work, we want to make sure that our local cities and counties are able to leverage that. So we are looking to also make ourselves available for any discussions or contributing any models or frameworks beyond any of our state work. So we really are hoping to have a policy leadership posture, and again, collaborate towards making sure that we are enforcing strong policies. And last but not the least, we are looking to have some exportable playbooks, right? Because when we actually put it in a published toolkit format, it becomes real. It actually gives people a starting point to implement and work on the case studies. So we're hoping that these will help our state agencies, and again, flow it across the other departments and levels in Georgia, across all the munis. So as part of this overall roadmap, this is really kind of where we see as the the third horizon. So what this really kind of brings me to is I would like to open a discussion for, based on everything that you all have heard, I would love to get some suggestions as far as, what are some of the things that we could be establishing. We are thinking that at this point, workshopping with agencies and workshopping with business owners who are seeking to have certain use cases is going to be critical. We already have an eager group of our industry partners who are willing to help. They are experts. We have some nonprofits who are willing to help. We need to make sure that we identify real use cases. So for that, I think the best way to do this has been that we need to have a conversation. And based on the conversation that we are having, use cases hopefully emerge. There are also going to be some known use cases. So for that, we're hoping to have workshops in place. So, just the way we have workshops for, say, prompt engineering, or we are having workshops for ethics. I would like to get some suggestions on what are some of these workshop topic ideas that any other council would suggest us to have. And we can collaborate on any of our industry partners who is willing to conduct those workshops and make that available across agencies and other organizations as well.
One thing, Nikhil, we've had a lot of interest in, and it's applicable across agencies, is procurement processes. And, seeing demonstrations of maybe what some of our industry partners have done in that realm and how it might resolve some of the identified kind of bottlenecks or challenges that we all face.
Yeah, makes sense. Any thoughts on like how we can get the conversation flowing based on some of like what Donna just mentioned?
Nikhil, I was gonna say some of the areas that we've noticed is just our staff involvement. It's not necessarily a technology solution. It's something that we need to engage the entire agency and the workforce in. And also just prompting and education and prompting and understanding what prompting really means.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Jason, have you all conducted any agency-wide effort to talk about this or train your staff on this?
Not widespread yet. We do have POCs that are ongoing to try and understand how and what we need to train, especially in the prompting world, dealing with primarily most of our staff are clinicians, just transitioning from the understanding of how they would be interfacing with a prompt and a model to get the information that they want out of it. And then that will turn into a broader training pattern for the rest of the staff.
Thank you. Rose, I think you were saying something.
Yeah, good afternoon, Nikhil. You were speaking of like just ideas. One idea I think is, and I include myself in this, that I think we have a long way to go in learning about how AI is being used, all the different applications, the possibilities. And I know you mentioned just emerging technologies, so not just AI, but like spatial computing. I know you and I have had a lot of conversations about the Apple Vision Pro and its impacts on education. And so I think if the AI lab can maybe host some, demos, let people come over and, really hands-on see how these technologies work. We've got a lot of employees that just, don't even really understand like a ChatGPT, right? Or what a large language model is. And I think that will be really a core piece of the upskilling for a lot of our employees that then service our citizens. And just like for us in the university system, right, we're servicing our students. And so we've got to get people up to speed on the emerging technologies in general. I think they think it's like way off in the future. And that, you know, when we talk about, you know, different things like robotics and things like that, I think they see that as like 20, 25 years from now, where you and I know they already exist and are being implemented. We even had some conversations about autonomous operating systems, and our faculty were like, well, autonomous vehicles are a long way away. And it's like, so not really, maybe for wide mainstream, but you know, they already exist. And you know, RoboFab has opened their first, you know, factory here in the United States for robotics. And so I think just, you know, just workshops on the emerging technologies that are going to start impacting Georgia in general.
Yeah, last week I was in San Francisco and had a chance to ride a Waymo. I was actually blown away at how responsibly it was driving. Like probably, I would say it was driving safer than I normally drive myself around. So the first time, absolutely skeptical, just to make sure how it would go. Selected like the shortest ride possible, but I was bought in. So yeah, I was really surprised at like how these robotics are catching up. To your point of just like this is not like way down. Like this is not even like second horizon, right? I mean, this is happening now. And we are launching in Atlanta. We are launching Waymo in summer.
Yeah. So I think if we have any workshops, I don't know how we do that with some of our partners and vendors, and but I know Atlanta has a lot of resources, and a lot of these things are happening in Atlanta and around Atlanta. We're a test site, you know, for some of the Tesla autonomous vehicles, and so I don't know what we might be able to partner with our vendors, but I do know that, as you know, just like even with the Apple Vision Pro, people coming in doing the demo changes everything versus just hearing about it or talking about it. Experiencing it or seeing how the technologies work really change people's frame of thoughts around it and understanding of how it's going to impact their work or, you know, the state of Georgia.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely a great point. And I think the lab would be really a good place for having those demonstrations where maybe just for a certain period of time, it would be like an open invite for agencies to come try those things out. I've already talked to
show it, and maybe even a way in the AL Lab that you guys could record it, and even if they can't be present, employees can watch. You know, of like, hey, what did this demo entail? What technology are they talking about? What are some of the use cases? And so if we had a place for vendors to come and basically kind of show what they're doing and record that and send it out to employees, it may just be a way to expose. I don't know if it's upskilling. It's just even exposing them to the emerging technologies that are hitting the market and that might impact the services that we provide to citizens or the expectations of our citizens. You know, as they start interacting, you know, with these other technologies. I think I mentioned to you before, we start having an expectation from our students about lots of things, because they're like, well, Uber can do this, you know, why can't the university do this for me? Or, you know, I can mobily, you know, do this with Bank of America. Why can't the university allow me to, you know, scan in my stuff? You know, like, why are you guys so far behind on the times and technology? And so we're starting to feel that, I think, some from our student population.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Stephen, you were going to say something?
I was going to add into the Waymo conversation. They're already driving around Atlanta now. And mapping out. But also, you know, just on campus, I think we have one of the campuses here. You know, we've got the driverless and autonomous delivery vehicles, right, for meals. And so people are interacting with these on a regular basis. And you know, at first when they launched, we saw students, you know, kind of getting in their way, and you know, and the robot still mapping out and figuring things out. But you know, literally within the term of a single semester, everyone learned to and coexist, maybe the wrong word here, but coexist with the robots that were out there, right? And so it became very natural to, I mean, you'll see when people, we know that if you kind of approach the robot, it stops, right? And And you know, if you pull up to a stop sign when it's there, it's going to pause and wait for you to go. So it's pretty interesting to see people, they'll actually stop a little shy and let the little robot go. So they
Yeah.
don't interfere with its, you know, its driving habits. And so people have not only just learned how to work and live and cooperate, they're learning how to be courteous, you know, around things. And so I think that is, you know, I think that's just a resiliency thing. But, you know, folks are, the technology's coming, you know, Waymo's a good
Mhm.
example of the others, but technology's coming and folks are going to adapt.
Yeah.
The more informed they can be about these things, the better they can adapt. So I fully support, you know, getting outside the kind of confines of 285 and but even inside the confines, right? Of like, let's get all these groups engaged because it's here and it's coming. But yeah, I think partnership with different groups to go talk through this. We should certainly be a convener
Yeah.
of those groups where we can be and bring them together. But there's so much happening so fast that we've got to get ahead of it.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely, and such a great point actually about how we are just naturally adapting to having these bots around us. I did see where even in like sitting in a Waymo, like when I was like trying to make a turn, and by the way, it was making pretty ambitious, you know, kind of like lane changes at some point. I was keeping an eye on like where it's going and the map. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to make a right. I'm in the leftmost lane. But eventually it found its way into the right lane. But also like people just let it go, right? People just
Yeah.
like, all right, you know, I'm not gonna bully you into staying in your lane. So I could see like people already adjusting to that.
Mhm.
And same thing with your point of like robots. I think like even with Rose, we were talking about this, that they were everywhere. Like my daughter goes to tech, so anytime I go see her, I at least see like 5 or 10 robots just like going around sidewalks. I think it's like delivering someone's food somewhere.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
mobile pods, yeah.
Yeah, the mobile pods, yeah.
Yep.
So but yeah, absolutely. I see the point where like the lab having that option for folks to come in and actually play around with things, right? Because our training actually tells them all about LLMs and all about, but I want to say like until actually they interact with it, and unless like they actually participate in like a workshop, it still stays academic.
Yeah.
So I think just kind of like having them getting their hands on this technology and getting that needed exposure really is to make sure that they are getting comfortable using these things. Otherwise, like I'm really seeing a lot of you know, I'm seeing a lot of worry across the workforce for like how fast things are moving. And as much as they want to move fast, they always feel like, you know, they're being left behind because the minute they feel like they're okay understanding ChatGPT, you know, OpenAI comes up with a new model. And suddenly now this is a reasoning model. So you have to sort of like relearn how to restructure your prompt.
Yeah.
Could I just make a comment here?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. From a Georgia State standpoint, Georgia State University standpoint, as I shared with you, right, we are at the cusp of a launch of what, along with MIT, the a whole initiative around Teach AI for America. And we're leading this in the state of Georgia with a number of build outs on how students will develop stackable skills over time. And as part of that, one of the things is going to be, of course, these internships and co-ops and whatever else for the students. And you got the labs on the one hand, and I think the labs provide a context of hands-on experimentation. I think that the internships, and it just sort of comes down to how we design these projects and whatever else, they can also become a low cost experimentation platform almost. Like it's like you get some students organized along with an idea you want to try, and you try it in the lab, and then maybe you embed them in a certain setting, and this becomes a sense around what new jobs would look like. So you're almost able to experiment with not just a project, but also the very changing nature of jobs and job descriptions within organizations. So how does one create that intersection with the labs and maybe embedding and leveraging the student and educational resources which we have in our community, and having that system of partnerships that could help us all a lot together. So
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. So based on, I mean, three of you being associated with educational organizations, and each of you have some of the other AI work happening within your schools. Like, what are some of like the top visible things that you already see are being done in your labs across your STEAM organizations?
I'll
I'm
start.
happy to go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead, Arun. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Good.
So, like I'll just focus on this Teach AI for America. We have a number of different initiatives, but within this program right now, let me just step back for 1 second. One of the things that we have built out is our LLM tutors, which can provide a personalized, scalable support for people where you meet people in their learning journey in a very personalized manner. And there's many people who are just sort of reluctant to ask for help, or may just not feel comfortable. So how do you have these personalized tutors? So that's one area where we've been working on, and we've built this program out, a lot of good insights on how these tutors can be leveraged. So I think it's both aspects around how the learner, and one of our biggest insights was how it's not just about how you design the tutor for a given environment, it's also in terms of how you prime the learner, in terms of what they do to interact with the tutor. So how do you ask for help in ways that build your skills as opposed to, hollow them out? So this duality aspect and how that's done. So I think we've learned a lot on that. But then in this build, this Teach AI for America idea, we're sort of having different tracks where you start off with very low code type of applications where you're building an AI application, let's say for a mobile context. We have these tools where a lot of this can be done with rather minimal technical expertise, but you're able to build them out very much from an experiential standpoint. And we're going to embed that through our entry-level classes, which are taken like by 2,500 students. So they're sort of able to understand how these things are done very early on. And then we are sort of having more on the other side, agentic systems and things of that sort, which we're building out, where there's more substantial re-engineering or reimagining of workflows and jobs. So one is, get the technology to be used in ways that it helps build people's skills. The other is help people experiment with less emphasis on the technology and more on the possibilities. And the third is sort of this reimagining piece around agentic AI. So, I mean, we can get into more details, but sort of very experiential and partnership oriented. That's the direction in which we are going.
Got it. Thank you.
I think, Nikhil, the only other thing that I think we see a lot, I mean, of course, the prompt engineering is just responsible citations and usage. Like, when do I need to inform someone that I have engaged with AI, or that I am utilizing or, having AI assist me in a project? I don't know that we exactly have all the answers for that, but it's been good discussions. So I think that's something that we have kind of ongoing, is just the responsible, not necessarily use, but awareness. Like when do you tell your boss, hey, I put this in ChatGPT and here's what I got, or Claude, or, Perplexity, or any of these, and do you have an obligation to? And so we've had a lot of those types of conversations, and I know those have been some of the workshops just to brainstorm and talk about where people are landing. Most people are landing on, basically, if you're using it for something other than just brainstorming or idea creation or gathering information, then it needs to be cited.
Are you seeing a lot of these conversations happening, or is it like mostly where like you all are now assuming that a lot of the folks are just using these tools in their day-to-day.
I think we've kind of graduated, we've tried to educate our faculty and staff as much as possible, particularly for our student populations. And I don't know if, Aran or Stephen see differently at their institutions, that, they're using these tools. So how do you either change the learning environment to support that, in that these tools will be integrated, and how do you provide assignments that support that as a kind of a factual piece? And I think we're starting to move to that. Faculty will be doing a lot of work over the summer, to try and change kind of the assignments to incorporate that. We want our students to be able to learn how to integrate these technologies. It's no different than, in the 40s and 50s when it was like, you're gonna have to start integrating, computers versus typewriters and other resources and tools that, they were using. Now they'll be using AI tools for sure. So I think we've kind of shifted to that. We still have some, that are going to set up some guidelines specifically to some of the areas that they set. And I think that's just going to be clear expectations to the students that for this particular setting, it's not allowable. But for the most part, I think it's going to be integrated in, and the faculty are learning how to do that and how it supports the learning.
Okay. That's great.
Taking a
Yeah.
while, though.
Yeah.
The
No, I
initial
would,
reaction was like, ban it, they can't use it.
We're not
And
supposed
so
to be
they-
banning it still, Rose, is that, so
Yeah.
you brought up an interesting point though about the citations and things of that nature. So you expecting, say, if someone uses, it's a Copilot, I mean, they're not even going to a website, they've got it installed and they use it to polish an email. Are you expecting some type of asterisk at the bottom of that email saying that this was helped by AI or something? Or if we, I mean, you just got to think with Copilot too, just about every document you create going forward, I mean, it would be almost it would be silly not to use the AI portion of Copilot to create your documents. I mean, because then you're wasting time if you bought that tool and you're expected to use it. So where do you draw the line there? I mean, should I just blanketly say that everything that comes out of OIT is going to have some type of AI on it, or do I need to specifically reference the model and language that's being used there? I'd love to know more about that, because we do use AI for a lot of things, and I don't know that we, not say that we're doing it wrong, but I don't know that we cite every aspect of it. Like, we create an RFP, are we expected to put in the solicitation that this RFP was help crafted by AI? I don't, but so just, and I'm not challenging that. I'd like clarity on that. I think it's a great point.
I think we all want clarity on it, Henry.
Well, of course, I wasn't expecting you to give it, but I just, yeah, I mean, I think that's, I should have thought about it that way, but I haven't really thought about, from a college standpoint of, giving credit where credit's due. Yep.
I think we've seen it both ways, right? So organizations are starting to set those expectations and those standards. I think for higher education, it's a little bit different because we're setting the expectations and standards for our students and what's acceptable or unacceptable behavior for them. But we're seeing that trickle over into faculty and staff as well. It's like, at what point do you have to put, a citation of, created with the assistance of, right, AI? And we're seeing that kind of all over the place, right? It's running the gamut of people putting it in their emails, created an assistance with Copilot. I've already seen that in the bottom of people's emails, versus I've seen complete documents that were literally built by AI and there's no credit or citation. So I think we're kind of learning that. Nikhil hears us all the time in the center talk about ethics making. And so we're kind of making these expectations and rules as we go. And I will say, Henry, we've seen a lot of leadership respond in the sense, of asking, saying, how much did we use AI in this project? And us having to kind of go back and give credit, in the sense of like, okay, yeah, we definitely had AI assistance in this. I will say, to your comment about the example given of an RFP, so something that actually just increases productivity, if any of us have ever had to fill out a statewide bid or an RFP proposal, there are, lots of pieces to that. And I think that's something that really is redundant work, something that is increasing productivity versus something that is a very creative work. So like if Nikhil was to ask me, to develop a strategy for GTA on this, that's a very specific assignment. It takes a lot of creativity. So if I'm going to use AI in that and to help with that, it may be something that I want to inform Nikhil, hey, I used these tools to assist in the development of this. But for something, that may be, more form filling, or, something where you're taking information and kind of put this into an RFP proposal. I think we see that as like productivity and efficiency. But we're all still kind of defining that a little bit. I will say, Henry, that I have seen some of our CIOs and our offices of information technology cite that they are using AI, hey, powered by, AI systems and those type of things, but it's been really inconsistent. So I'm not sure of the exact answer, but I think it's a conversation we should have. And I think that people will be looking to the advisory council or to GTA on some guidance on, what that looks like, not necessarily a standard or policy, but just guidance
Sure.
to state
Yep.
employees of what they, when should they be thinking about citing something.
I like your distinction between the RFP and the more intellectual property that, Nikhil would be assuming that you came up with that, not that you asked someone else to do it. And if you did, you should, I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rose.
And I think
Yeah.
if I'm doing something really mundane and something, that it just has to kind of be put together and organized, Nikhil would expect me to be using tools that would make it more efficient and effective, kind of like, my analogy from typewriter to computer. Hey, this is way faster, on a computer versus a typewriter. Now this is way faster incorporating
Mhm.
Copilot or ChatGPT or, something like that. But we have to be really careful as presenting it as our own creative works. If we're being asked to do something very specific that would take our expertise, or something that, maybe Nikhil would have an understanding that my human capabilities and creativity were necessary for that, and I've replaced them. So one of the
Yeah.
words that we use is support versus replacement. Am I using this tool to support and increase productivity and efficiency, or am I using this tool to replace, right, my contribution? And we have found that replacement is probably something that has to be cited, and usually typically a conversation you want to have that would be okay.
That's a good point. And we can noodle more on this from like a topic perspective, or yeah. Stephen, you had your hand up. If you want to jump in.
I'll be extremely brief. I know we're running out of time there. I was going to say, to add on to both add on to Rose and Henry's conversation. I'm getting messages. So my daughter does online tutoring in a platform, OutSchool, and they're using AI to transcribe, and they're also sending recaps of classes. They record everything. You go, I can look at this in recaps, but they're acknowledging that the AI is used maybe with the help of AI. I think the big challenge here is, as little as 6 months ago or a year ago, it was a scarlet letter if you used AI. Nobody wanted to acknowledge that, right? And so as we normalize people actually getting support from what would have been a human before, and now as an AI bot, is normal. It's okay to talk about it. But I think to the same thread, and I think this is where you're going, you give credit where credit's due, and that, almost everything I write or have output on is a collective work of several other people. I'm going to collaborate. I'm going to have someone else read it, edit it, or maybe just ideate. We typically want to acknowledge whether, from citations or just, hey, just thanks to the team for, their editing or other things there. So I think it's pretty normal now to do that. We're moving to that phase where it's pretty normal to acknowledge, whether this was AI, and potentially it becomes acknowledging which LLM or bot or entity, whatever, actually supported these efforts. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Point. Well, great discussion. Like always, I feel like we're always like running against time. Would love to keep this going, but Donna and I will put these notes together, and we'll share with the council as far as some of these topics that I come up with, and then maybe we could have a little outline for like what it could be as part of the workshop. Our next meeting is going to be June 12th. Just as a reminder, like of course, send out reminders before that from 12:30 to 2. So as you can see the time, we're hoping to have this based on some of y'all's suggestion last time to have this in person. So happy to offer up hosting you all at the lab again. So we'll follow up with invites, and then we can finalize on the actual in-person or online. But just June 12th, please put it down. And thank you again. Thank you, everyone, so much for your time and your expertise. And thank you, everyone who chimed in, logged in from outside as well. We will look at some of the questions that you have sent. If you have more questions, feel free to just go to ai.georgia.gov, and there's a form for you to send out questions to us. Feel free to do that, and we'll respond to you. All right. Thank you so much. Until next time.